Most people associate the name MK Ultra with conspiracy forums, urban legends, or secret experiments involving LSD in hidden bunkers. But the documented truth is far more disturbing than the myth, because MK Ultra wasn't the government trying to control minds out of paranoia or madness. It was something colder, more calculated, and much more familiar. It was a business model, a multi-million-dollar, state-backed initiative trying to answer a single question. If you can shape how people think, can you control how they act? And if you can control actions, what does that mean for governments, markets, and every system built on human behavior? Welcome to Paper Empire's history. Today, we stand at that dark intersection where money, power, and psychology collide.
To understand MK Ultra, you must understand the world that created it. Let's go back to the early 1950s, a moment when the global economy wasn't yet globalized, but fear was. The Korean War had just ended. American soldiers were returning home, making strange confessions, speaking as if their minds had been rewired. Rumors circulated that the Soviet Union was experimenting with hypnosis and drugs, and China with ideological brainwashing. The Cold War wasn't just a military competition, it was a psychological war. And in Washington, inside CIA headquarters, a chilling idea took root. If the mind can be broken, perhaps it can be controlled. And if it can be controlled, it can be used. In 1953, CIA Director Allen Dulles signed off on the MK Ultra program. It looked like a research initiative. It acted like a covert operation. But at its core, it was an investment, a massive, unregulated portfolio of experiments funded by secret budgets. Over the next 2 decades, the CIA funneled money through front organizations and foundations to prestigious universities. Harvard, Stanford, McGill. These institutions thought they were receiving research grants. In reality, they were subcontractors for one of the most ethically catastrophic projects in American intelligence history. High-dose LSD, sensory deprivation, electroshock. Rules were ignored. The CIA wasn't asking if something was moral. They were only asking, does it work? But here's the part of the story that is rarely discussed. MK Ultra wasn't just about torture or Cold War paranoia. It was about economics. Beneath the mad science, the program was driven by a belief. Human behavior could be engineered, and engineering behavior could tilt the balance of power in everything from geopolitics to markets. This is where the story stops being fringe and becomes uncomfortably familiar. While MK Ultra operated in the shadows, corporations in the light were beginning their own investigations into influence. Madison Avenue was rewriting the rules of advertising. Behavioral psychology was becoming a tool of persuasion. The post-war consumer economy was exploding, and companies wanted to know what makes people buy, what makes them loyal. 2 worlds, 1 covert, 1 commercial, were asking the same question. How do you control decisions? The CIA didn't run MK Ultra alone. They outsourced it. They funded professors, psychiatrists, and chemists. The CIA didn't just create a program. They created a shadow research economy. This ecosystem revealed a powerful principle. When institutions chase the power of influence, money flows fast. The goal wasn't just to see if the mind could be broken. It was to see if it could be predicted, directed, and weaponized. And prediction is the bedrock of every financial system on Earth. If you know how people will behave, you control everything built on behavior, markets, politics, belief, and loyalty. When you look at MK Ultra's projects, unsuspecting subjects dosed with LSD, memory erasure experiments, you see a horror movie. But if you pull the thread, the real shape emerges. A collision of fear, ambition, science, and money. The line between intelligence and economics blurs here. While the CIA pursued psychological control for geopolitical gain, the private sector pursued psychological persuasion for profit, and the techniques began to overlap. While MK Ultra tested LSD, advertisers tested emotional triggers. While the CIA sought behavior modification, corporations developed targeted marketing. One side used secrecy, the other used strategy. Both learned how to shape behavior, and this brings us to a reality most people never consider. MK Ultra didn't fail. It shifted. When the CIA shut down the program in 1973, or claimed to, it wasn't because they discovered morality. The program had become a liability. The files were burned. But even if the operational program died, the research didn't. The knowledge didn't. What MK Ultra revealed, that human behavior is malleable and predictable, became the foundation for a new era. An era where control wouldn't come from drugs or hypnosis, but from systems, markets, and technology. As the intelligence community withdrew from the shadows, the private sector stepped forward with better tools and better data. MK Ultra was a crude prototype. The real product was built later by Silicon. Think of this legacy as a relay race. MK Ultra ran the first leg, proving perception could be altered. Then the baton passed to universities, then to marketers, and finally to tech companies. By the early 2000s, what the CIA tried to force through chemistry, Silicon Valley achieved through code. Traditional economics treated humans as rational, but research by psychologists psychologists like Daniel Kahneman showed the opposite. Humans are not rational. They are emotional, biased, and manipulatable. These insights became the backbone of behavioral economics. Governments used nudge theory to steer public behavior. Financial institutions built models predicting fear and greed. The modern economy turned into a laboratory of influence. The only difference is that consent is now buried in terms and conditions rather than taken by force. In the digital age, the story gets even more interesting. The internet didn't just give companies access to data, it gave them access to attention. Social media platforms discovered something intelligence agencies never could: voluntary surveillance. Billions of people openly providing their habits, fears, and weaknesses every single day. MKUltra affected a few subjects at a time. Modern tech companies influence entire populations. Their influence isn't crude or chemical. It is algorithmic, invisible, personalized. They don't need to control your mind. They just need to control what you see. The lesson of MKUltra, that behavior is the ultimate variable, became the foundation of modern economic power. So what does this have to do with markets? Everything. Because markets are not driven by supply and demand alone. They are driven by emotion, expectation, fear, and confidence. Psychological states that institutions now know how to measure and manipulate. Today, the most valuable commodity is not oil or gold. It is attention, belief, and behavior. When a company's stock jumps not because of fundamentals, but because of a viral narrative, that is influence economics. When algorithmic feeds determine what people trust or fear, that is influence economics. When social media panic crashes a bank faster than regulators can respond, that is influence economics. This is the world MKUltra foreshadowed. A world where influencing minds is no longer a covert operation, but a trillion-dollar industry. The intelligence community once feared the Soviets would master mind control. Today, governments fear corporations. Corporations fear algorithms. And individuals fear they no longer know what is influencing them. The most valuable asset in the world isn't capital, it is consent. And the battle for consent is won in the mind long before it happens in the marketplace. MKUltra was the first major attempt to weaponize this idea. It failed because its methods were too brutal, but its principles survived and evolved into something subtle enough to govern the attention economy and shape global politics. History doesn't repeat, but incentives do. And when institutions compete for power, the ability to shape behavior will always be their most profitable investment. If what I shared today helped you see the world from a different perspective, don't forget to subscribe. Because history always has an answer. You just need to look from the right angle. And I am here to help you find those answers buried in the dusty pages of financial history.